Okay, Carl Goldman with you on K100 Conversations. With me right now is the man who probably influenced our culture more than just about anybody else during the past couple decades. We can classify Bob Dylan, possibly Paul McCartney and John Lennon, and I don't know, maybe you can pick a couple others, I'm not sure, but I think that Brian Wilson, who's my guest right now on K100 Conversations, definitely makes the top one or two. How you doing, Brian?
Hi, nice to see you, Carl, and nice to talk to the people out there.
What's been happening with the Beach Boys the last few months? I saw you guys in concert at Anaheim Stadium July 3rd, the day before our bicentennial,
Right.
and I have to say that the energy that was emitted at that concert was probably the most loving and the most hysterical, all in one word, if you can say it, that I've ever been at.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you felt the same thing out there on stage, but it was total insanity, but it was a beautiful experience.
Yes, right. Well, the group, of course, creates this insanity for the people. We don't believe in namby-pamby business. We get down to rock and roll and to a various number of different ingredients that we issue into our show. Some of the ingredients does create hysteria, and some ingredients creates a nice, cool atmosphere. And, of course, I'm glad you said you liked that Anaheim show. We did a thing at the Forum on New Year's Eve, which, of course, went over great. Whoa! I mean, it was like everybody was up, and it said Happy New Year from the Beach Boys up in the marquee, that great big thing where they, I think they have ball games there, do they?
Right.
Yeah, right. Anyway, it said... Anyway, New Year's went off just when we were doing Good Vibrations. It was Happy New Year, and it said Happy New Year from the Beach Boys. And, of course, the concerts go very well, but I'm glad to be here, and anything you want to talk about, we can get right into.
Well, let's get our listeners caught up on Brian Wilson. The first concert you guys ever performed at, I believe, was around the Santa Monica area, maybe Long Beach. I think it was Long Beach back in 1962, 63.
Yes, right.
Those were the days when you had about 3 songs to play, and that was it.
Yeah,
a lot's happened since then.
Oh, of course, a lot of water under the bridge since then. We've grown in leaps and bounds, and of course picked up on a various, like you mentioned, John Lennon and Paul McCartney. Of course, now you have to learn from those fellas. I mean, they're two guys that teach and can teach you culture and teach you a little bit about pop music, and we've learned little tricks of the trade, so to speak, with tradesmen as they talk their language to each other. They come to grips with newfound ideas that are expressed between them, and of course I know Paul McCartney, and I've talked to him. He came to my birthday party, and we had a good time. And of course, like people like that, Bob Dylan too. Various artists teach me. I've learned a great deal, a lot of lessons in life, and a lot of beautiful things have occurred that I've learned, tricks how to record records, and I'm very happy for it.
The Beach Boys emerged about the same time as the Beatles back in the early 60s. You had a unique style that definitely was related to California, the surfers. You've talked about this so many times, surfing automobiles and such. And you brought a different dimension to rock music. Who were some of the people, Brian Wilson, who influenced your own writing, and how did the whole Beach Boys style develop?
Well, Spectre as it was in the early 60s was a moving force in rock and roll, and of course in pop music. You might call it music if you want. Was a great teacher, of course, exponent of sound on sound, experimental aspects of piano, guitar, and horns, and depth of violin and voice, and there were a myriad amounts of. It's like a pyramidical power. You have sound on sound, of course, it's infinite, and there's, like I say, are infinite teachings to be derived from things like your Spectre school of thought, and of course you can't go and talk in an interview without bringing this up as a foundation to your basic foundation to your pop music, and of course your rock and roll industry. And of course Burt Bacharach has been instrumental in teaching me a melodic thought, and I can't say enough about Bacharach. He's appearing in Vegas currently, and I might go see him. He's just amazing, and his songwriting abilities far surpass mine as far as just creating a song, and I'm known as a balanced man, arranger, producer, writer, or singer. I'm a balanced man. I balance myself out. But now and then you do find these prodigies, and they're people to admire and look up to, and it's something to learn from. Like, I say, okay, it's time to go into the studio, and let's see if we can write a song. Oops, no song came today. Well, let's see, we'll try it tomorrow. tomorrow it happens. That's how it happens. Some days you're on, some days you're off. Now there's also the attitude. You sit down, let's grind it out today. We'll sit down and we'll pound one out today. Well, that works too, but you got to have a lot of balls. I mean, if you're a person that works off of schedule and things happen and they come when they come, fine. But I'm a person that, by and large, goes on the grind theory. I believe that you can grind it out, just like a machine grinds out, a computer grinds out its things, a machine grinds out its tools, a human being grinds out ideas, And I, being a human being, Brian Wilson is unfortunately a human being who responds to fear and love and things like that. I tend to also respond to psychological conditions, and these conditions are brought upon by myself. And I say to myself, well, today I'm going to grind one out. Okay, get behind that piano and grind a song out. And believe me, it works. You can grind these things out. You can force yourself to do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, go! It's like, it's one of these grinder things, and I've learned this the hard way, and of course a lot of people are learning the same lesson, that you have to more or less grind it out yourself. If you want it done, do it yourself. First rule in life, first rule of life. Isn't that true?
It is so true. Brian Wilson, you've grinded out quite a few songs over your own career. It's been a lengthy career and a very good career. You've had some tremendous hits, from the early surfing songs up to your Pet Sounds album, the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds album, which was, I think, a classic breakthrough in the music industry at that time. And
yes,
your material at the moment is getting back to the old Beach Boy tradition as well. Where's your head at right now in 1977? What are some of the things that Brian Wilson, the man, is into?
Well, in 77, this is a new year. 76 I might go over for a second first before I talk about 77.
Go right ahead.
I call 76 year one. I decided that 76 was called year one with me. The reason I call that year one, well, it was the year that I saw a psychiatrist for 10 months. It was the year that I came back and made 15 big ones after 3.5 years of inactivity. It was the year that I got myself into physical shape, became a physical specimen. It was the year that I learned self-hypnosis, where I learned how to control my subconscious mind and bring the power to the fore, bring it to the conscious mind and say, I will create a good song tomorrow. The subconscious mind is very powerful. And so I call that year one with me. Now, not with all people, of course, but that was year one. Year two is doing very fine. Year two is 1972 in a cycle. Every year is year one, actually. This is another year one. But if you want to call 76 year one, then 76 would have to be then called year two. Well, year two is coming along beautifully. It has been a series of depressions and ups and downs for me, but by and large, the great thing about year two is that we did complete just this year, toward January this year, an album called The Beach Boys Love You, which, yay for the Beach Boys. We're doing very well. I have 14 original cuts. I mean, it's like 14, cuts on there, original, no oldies but goodies.
That's
all
great.
done well, all individually, could be all singles. I mean, they all could be singles, We do things well. We're taught, my father taught me, if you're going to do it good. Do the right job. Don't namby-pamby around. If you're going to do something, do it, So we took that philosophy, and then we says, all right, everything we do is going to be good, And it spreads. That kind of philosophy works, amongst us, our group. We believe in hard work and perfection, and it's always been a plus for us. It's always been our success factor. And I, being Brian Wilson, I have a responsibility to continue these good vibes, as you so to speak, good vibrations amongst the group, and I have hopes that people will tune in on the Beach Boys this time around, 1977 style, and check in on the Beach Boys Love You new album, which is going to come out in early March, and it sure has a lot of good things on it. All I can say is we gave from our hearts, and of course we had 3-4 years of defeat, no hit records, no albums. The only thing we had in that period was Endless Summer and Spirit of America, 2 repackages by Capitol Records, where they put 24 songs on an album, where the album was oldies but goodies, the old songs of the Beach Boys, and that's all we had as our activity for 3-4 years. But now we're back with some new albums and some new things and a lot of concerts, and I'm doing a lot of interviews like here at K100, and we're doing an awful lot of photo sessions and interviews in newspapers, and just getting circulated around town, And it's good to see that that people accept us. I'm very well accepted, it looks like, and I have a lot of hopes that in the future things can build, that this ongoing thing called the Beach Boys, which I'm a part of, seems to be a good thing. It seems to be a positive force in the world. It seems to be giving joy to people, and we're there for that reason. I like they say, you know how it is. Life out there isn't all roses, and now and then you run across something like the Beach Boys, where we're happy to say brings happiness, and it's something to latch on to. I just say, I'm not saying, hey, you got to buy our records. Hey, you got to dig us. I'm just saying that it's something there. It's offered. It's there for that purpose. It's like Maharishi says, life is to be lived, not death. Life isn't death. It isn't a walking death at all. By any means. And like I say, this kind of thing, this joyous thing called music and love and all, is taking hold in the world, and and the Beach Boys have been a part and parcel of this new renaissance, this new thing that's happening. We're all very proud of it. We're very in awe of it. Of course, it's a very frightening experience to see the creation unfold as it is, But like I say, for those out there who, incidentally, let me just lapse right in from out of nowhere, subconsciously, into a little subject called weight loss. I want to break the subject here because we've got heavy with this Beach Boy stuff. I lost 55 pounds in 1 year, and they asked me, well, how'd you do that? What was the big secret behind that? Well, there's maybe 3 ingredients that add up to weight loss. One, first of all, desire. You look at yourself and say, hey, oh no, I weigh too much. In that old pouty thing, where you look in the mirror and you say, oh, I'm defeated, I can't go out there and be happy. Excuse me. 2, second ingredient, well, the facts are low carbohydrates. You say, well, how do you lose weight? Well, mathematics. When you take calories away, mathematically speaking, you burn up. You take calories away, the weight goes away. It's relative to the amount of calories taken away. You drop French fries, potatoes, anything that's starchy like corn, potatoes, bread. Of course, bread is one of the greatest carbohydrate additives in the diet that gain you weight.
And also not that bad a rock group either.
And so to speak, if you just check into the simple little theory, low carbohydrate diet, if you check into that, anybody out there with a weight problem ends up 50 pounds lighter. That's what happened to me, and it can really happen, honest to God.
You're working out in a health club right now, Brian Wilson, right?
Right.
I can see it in your biceps.
Yeah, the old biceps and arms are getting pretty powerful. I'm
Almost
getting
like Mr. America.
No, not Mr. Charles Atlas. I prefer that as a self-nurturing concept. Self-nurturing, I learned from my psychiatrist, means love thyself, tell thyself every day, you are good, you are this, you are that, blah, 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 blah. Introduce into your mind thoughts like, I am good, I'm this, I'm that, whatever the word might be, whatever you might want to call yourself. And after a while, these thoughts take hold in the subconscious, and you start to believe it. You become. Act as if, and you will become, is a rule, too, in life. You act as if you're good, you will become good. You act as if you're brilliant of mind, your mind will become more brilliant and acute. It's all basically what it is, a positive frame of mind you develop. And I would like to pass on at this time, too. I mean, I know I'm rambling on and talking. I had a cup of coffee on my second cup. Coffee tends to stimulate my mind, and so if I'm talking too fast, let me take a breath. So I'll take a breath and...
Why don't you take a breath and let's get into one of your songs right now.
Okay, how about it?
All right, Carl Goldman on Conversations right now, journeying back with the Beach Boys. Brian Wilson is up here right at the moment. We're talking about the good old days and the good new days, year number 2, as Brian Wilson said earlier, 1977. Looks like a good year for the Beach Boys. The 70s actually look like a good year for the Beach Boys, or a good decade. It seems that the Beach Boys in the late 60s were not really part of the times at that moment, and that the public wasn't quite as receptive as they were in the mid-60s and early 60s. But now that the 70s have begun, it seems like the Beach Boys are bringing on a positive hope, a new hope, and I think they represent very much so the cultural cryings of the 70s, if I can sound like a philosopher. And it seems to me that, and this is my own personal opinion as well, that the music that I loved in the 60s, I suddenly rediscovered again with the Beach Boys here in the 70s, and I think many people my age and older are doing that, and the youngsters, the Bay City Roller fans, the Peter Frampton fans now, are also discovering the Beach Boys, only they're discovering them for the first time, Brian Wilson, and it's a new treat for them. It's a real delight. I'd like you to talk about that later, but right now I'd like to get more into the whole health kick that you're in.
Yeah, I'd be very glad to sort of expound, or whatever the word might be. Words, I want to explain first of all what I've been going through. I've been going through what you call word complex. It's a little game called words. It's called, you learn to speak, you learn the meaning of words, and then before you know it, you're hung up in words. You're already hung up in words, like, all day long. What does this mean? What does that mean? Expound this. Anyway, I want to say, don't let words hang you up. Just stomp on it. Just say, look, those are only words, and that's, just get that under control. It's a matter of working on it every 10 seconds if you have to, in order to keep those fears down and keep those word games down. Don't let the meaning of words mess your mind. I mean, words are words. Just let them be. But anyway, let's get into physical health. Physical health is kind of what I call tantamount to life. It has become a way of life with me, versus just something to do. It has become a living way of life. Physical health means much more energy, of course, and this energy is translated into concrete terms, such as like coming down to do this interview is a form of energy release. And so the physical exercise that I have taken on for a year has mounted up into not Charles Atlas strength yet. I hope someday to be Charles Atlas. I have visualizations of taking a picture with my shirt off with huge muscles saying, "I'm Charles Atlas," like that strength thing, that power, that exuberant beauty, the god of somebody who you can picture standing up on a mountain holding up people, power and strength. I think that it's good to develop power. One of the end results, if you continue in physical health as you get better and better, pretty soon you do think of yourself as a Charles Atlas. You self-nurture yourself. You tell yourself, "I'm Charles Atlas. I'm powerful. I can defend myself in a fight. Anybody tried to whip me, I'd whip them. They'd get their head zonked." The point is, you got to self-nurture yourself, and one of the ways you can do this is by developing self-confidence through a strong body, and this can be done through going to a gymnasium, which I've done. I do it every single day, and then I go to a YMCA almost every night to play basketball with my cousin Stan Love, who's an ex-Laker. Are you ready for that? He used to play for the Los Angeles Lakers, and
back in the days with Jerry West and crew,
right.
I remember that.
He played with Jerry West, and of course, out on the court with Stan Love is quite an experience. It's exuberating, and anyway, physical exercise sounds really, subconsciously we relate to that as, oh no, me get off my keister and go down to the gym. I used to relate that way, and a lot of people do. Point is, there's a mountain. There is a mountain to climb. You have these mountain shoes you put on. Time to climb the mountain. Climb halfway up the mountain. At least you're halfway there. You don't have to climb to the top of the mountain, but at least attempt to climb that mountain a little bit. Attempt to put on those tennis shoes. Get out there with some friends and have some fun and sweat it up. Come back, have some orange juice, play some anything. Live. To live is to live. Life should be lived, and of course, one of the greatest ways to live life is to get in physical shape. And all I can say is the spirit gets in your blood. Once it gets in your blood, once you see the light about these kind of issues, it's hard to get away from it. It really is. It's almost, as a matter of fact, it's impossible to shut off all the light that you have, all the light that you see, as far as seeing what there is and what there is to do physically and all that. As far as physical, it's impossible to shut that light off. You can't, because there's too much light. It's like oh, how do you explain it? It's impossible to explain. All I can say is, once you've seen what I'm trying to talk about, once you've seen the light of day, as far as getting into your physical shape, getting into a condition that is considered superior to what you were before, let's say 2 or 3 months before, you begin to see that, yes, this is the way to go. I guess I was wrong, and I guess I did goof up, but now it's cool to keep on going,
Brian Wilson is my guest right now on Conversations. Carl Goldman with you. We're talking about health and different things that Brian Wilson now into his second year of renewed life, should we say it that
Yes.
way? You like that? What about the whole aspect, Brian, of our own awareness of our bodies, our own awareness of dietary habits, our own awareness of keeping ourselves not only in physical shape but in mental shape that you were talking about? It seems to me that we are just beginning to see the light that you talked about a few minutes ago, to see the light that, man, it's all connected, it's all part of the same thing, that our body definitely relates to our mind, and that the two are so interconnecting, and that we've got to take care of both. How do you feel about that, and how do you see our culture turning that way?
Well, I see it whipped this way. I see it whipped as body first, mind second. I think, well, no. Actually, no. It begins in the mind. You conceive of the fact that you have the power mentally to say to yourself, to state your own condition. You're able to see your condition with your mind to say, all right, I'm subpar. The condition is I'm subpar here. I got a gut, or I got this. I haven't got that. It begins in the mind, but the mind is strengthened through a strong body. I mean, you're able to make your mind much stronger by creating a powerful physical condition. That way, you have confidence. You say, "I am strong." That you are able to say it in that force, not "I'm strong" or "I'm strong." I'm strong. You're able to say things in a force to yourself. The mind responds to that. Your mind then thinks, "Hey, I'm strong too. I'm powerful." It's all, it works both ways. The physical enhances the mental, but it does begin mentally. Of course, you have to, the willpower, the desire to get into shape begins mentally. It starts with a thought. You initiate yourself. You initiate motion, movement. It's conceived of. It starts. It happens. It begins. This is all part of living.
Like the starting up of a car.
Right. Shall we play another record?
We've played many in between. Little do you realize. Yeah, we're putting in records all along.
Okay.
So we've got it all set. Okay. Brian Wilson is my guest right now on Conversations. Carl Goldman with you. And we're going through the years right now. Beach Boys hits. They've got a new album coming out later this spring, as Brian said, 14 original songs. Brian, it seems that the music that you wrote in the 60s and made so famous and so much a part of us was a fun type of style. It was a fun type of music. Pet Sounds took on a different dimension. You had one album, in fact, called Surf's Up, which was very much tied into the ecology scene. What about now? What's your music into now? You weren't political at first, then you went through the Surf's Up stage,
Right.
trying to relate to the times, and I think that is one of your most impressive endeavors by the Beach Boys. What's it now? 1977. What are some of the issues that concern you, and how are you trying to relate that to your music?
Well, people still remain the main basic issue with the Beach Boys. Human beings, whether Jewish, Gentile, Negro, whatever, I mean, we deal with human beings, and I think that it's a matter of like stating the facts. We have a lot of you me songs. I can relate to the Beatles, as they say. The Beatles did a lot of you me songs about you and me, he and her, she and them, us, we, us, them. It's a matter of simplicity, and we have simplified. Of course, there are some complexities. We did a couple things on the album that are more complex in nature, but basically the entire album in its entirety is seen as a vehicle of simplicity, rather imparting simplicity as an idea form. We in Pet Sounds 10 years ago, we embarked off on a very complex music trip, utilizing a lot of the Spectorian track method. The thing is that we have reached a level of refinement since we all meditate. And this is something I would like to get into in a few seconds, is this transcendental meditation issue.
Okay, let's talk about that later on.
Yes.
Continue with this
first,
thought
I'd like to say, since we do meditate and since we have become more refined people, our ideas refine up, and of course our sound refines. Our sound is refining. Our voices are very refined on the album. We sound refined, and we're giving something of that nature to people, a refinement of sound, a refinement of vocal sound. It's hard to explain in terms of words. Like I say, words are tough to beat, but we're involved in a refinement issue. The Beach Boys are going through what I call a vocal refinement period, where the voice is becoming more refined. Mike Love is starting to sound more right on. He's starting to sound like a machine rather than a human. You know, I'm starting to get a little edge in my voice. It's starting to get a little edgier, has a little more clarity to it. Carl Wilson is getting a little more lifelike. He's getting more closer to the nitty-gritty of how it should be. The Beach Boys are getting closer to how it should all be, as far as I'm concerned.
Do you find yourself, Brian, having or attempting to get the same control of your voice as you were talking about earlier with your body, that Charles Atlas approach, where you want that Robert Merrill approach to your voice or whatever?
Yeah, well, not so much Robert, but I do relate vocally the same way I do physically. Like I want to be Charles Atlas of the body. You know, someday I have a desire to become a Charles Atlas, to become a human specimen, a strength thing, a strength symbol. Vocally, I want to be that too. Only I'm having trouble deciding which way to go. With Danny Huttons and the Three Dog Nights, you wonder, hey, what what am I gonna, it's hard to compete. Let's say these days, as a matter of fact, Thursday night, I have a well-known entertainer. I'm not going to say who, but a well-known singer is coming over to have dinner with me, and I'm very proud to have him accept my dinner engagement. But it's a good example of Charles Atlas. It's hard to explain strength vocally. I want to portray a strength vocally in human voice. I want to be able to portray strength and clarity of voice. We have a message in the Beach Boys. There's a message at hand that speaks very clearly, but it's not a message that is transmitted through language. Through the language of music, that message is interpreted. That message is seen and felt. And I can only say that that's the only way I can explain it. The message cannot be dealt with on a verbal level. I can't sit and rap with you on a message like the Beach Boys are a message. What message is that? What is it? Blah, blah, blah. Well, blah, blah, blah. Love. We're in the love music. It's a matter of two and two. You have a facility. May I pour a cup of coffee?
Go right ahead.
Why don't you go
In
ahead
fact,
and say something to me while I pour my
let's
coffee?
go right into a song
Okay.
while we take a coffee break. Carl Goldman with you right now on Conversations. Brian Wilson is my guest of the Beach Boys fame. We're going through the years, different sounds. I want to get into Surf's Up in a minute, too, because I think that was a different type of album by the Beach Boys. You don't give yourself enough credit, Brian, with your vocal abilities. I think the Beach Boys, vocally, are the genius of the music industry. They've done more things to change the vocal sounds of rock music in harmonizing and in the entire style than any other group. You had the Mamas and the Papas and a few other groups that stand out in mind, but when you take the Beach Boys, they are it when it comes to harmonizing and vocalizing.
Well, yeah, we're considered a voice movement, primarily a vocal movement, and we're considered a heavy force and influence in voices, and we're proud of it, but we have a lot of disillusionment about it. There's a lot of, okay, fine, you guys do harmonies, but you ain't no Three Dog Night. And of course we're not Three Dog Night. We never will be, and we never hope to be. It's very tough to deal on these levels, But like I say, we have a message in our group that we feel is worth listening to. We feel our message is worth the time and effort to listen to hear, to see what we're saying, to understand, yes, there is a message, that they are saying something, that there is something happening there. We feel it's offered to people unselfishly as nature. Nature gives. A tree gives fruit, a mother gives milk, the Beach Boys give music. It's that basic, it's that simple, and it's not like you have to suck on the Beach Boy nipple in order to get milk. It's not even that hard. It isn't. You don't even have to make that effort. It's there. It's there for you to assimilate. We accommodate people with music, and we give, and hopefully they're able to relate to us in their living room. We're there with them, talking to them, saying, "Hey, we're all cool. We're all, of a similar source. Let's just be. Let's be together. Here we are. Blah blah blah. Enjoy us. So some people might say, well, that bothers me. I didn't like that. I don't like the way he sings. Well, that's cool too. Hate the doggone guy. Tell it to yourself. I hate him. I don't like him. That's cool too. What we want is at least to give everybody a fair chance, and we want the fair chance to be accepted. You know what we're saying, our message. We have an internal message that's going on, welling up inside of the Beach Boy group, and it's something that can't be put into words. It's a message that's there out of nature. It's occurring naturally, and we just believe in it. You know, we just naturally believe in our message that it's for real, that it's a real thing. We take, well, this trip could all be a fantasy. It's a dream. Who cares what's what? You know, all I know is there's a message. You know, there. And like we were talking before, we were talking about the fact that the reason that we got into vocal refinement and artistic refinement is because of this meditation. Well, in 1968, a man named Maharishi Mahesh Yogi came from India and flew into the United States with a whole program to start a 10 to 15 year cycle in the United States to rehabilitate human beings, to give human beings new start as far as their nervous systems go. He is a man sent from God to this country, and he had reached our beings new start as far as their nervous systems go. He is a man sent from God to this country, and he had reached our end of things. He reached the Beatles' end of the stick. He reached Donovan's end of the stick. He reached a lot of artists, and he's reached a lot of public. And what he is giving to them is a transcendental meditation technique, which is simply being initiated into the process of repeating a mantra to yourself over and over silently. A mantra being a word or a series, one or two words that have no literal meaning, like ula bula. You know, that's, you're not going to say, what does ula bula mean? You just like the sound. Ula bula sounds nice.
May make it up the charts, I think.
Right. You know, ula bula, ula bula, ula bula. Now, this is said silently to yourself. Let's say that were your mantra. You know, there are a series of different sounds. He gives these out to the people. They sit down, legs crossed in yoga position, or just sitting on a chair. For 20 minutes, you sit and you repeat this to yourself silently, very gently. Not much pressure applied. Ula bula, ula bula, ula bula, ula bula, ula bula. Pretty soon, ula bula becomes a little trippy on the mind. It kind of removes the mind from thought process. What meditation is designed to do is to take the mind away from its busy thought process, take it to a subtler level of being or a subtler level of existence, nurturing the plant, the mind or the body, can be considered a tree in this case. The water comes up from underneath and nourishes that tree. What Maharishi has taught me and the Beach Boys and a lot of people is that that tree has suffered for many years and that we haven't found techniques in order to water it, to give it strength. And he's only offering this out of nature. It's being offered to people, and it's catching on. I don't know how well. I just think that if people like the Beach Boys and the Beatles and keep plugging away at it, you find your next door neighbor saying, "Hi, I'm going to go meditate now." "Well, I'll talk to you later then." "Yeah, see you later. I'm going to have my dinner and then I'm going to meditate." "Hey, well, so am I. I'll talk to you tomorrow." You know, one of those. You know, you go down to New York, you do a show, and somebody says, "Hey, I just meditated before I came to the show. I feel good." "Yeah, so do we. Just meditated before the show too." You know, I mean, meditation. You know, like I just meditated. I feel good. My nervous system. I'm not jangled. You know, it's a system by which you can refine yourself. You can become more peaceful. It's not like Buddhist chanting where you know, where you freak out, and these Buddhists chant power frequencies where you go nuts. It's not that kind of thing at all. It's a refined, subtle system that 20 years, a human being worked 20 years in the hills of India at this technique, transcendental meditation, day and night for 20 years. He became a godlike being, came to this country with his technique, and sure enough, he says if 2% of this country were to be meditators, there would be no more war. Now, that's a heavy statement to make, for a man to make, you know. I mean, you can't relate, and no one can relate to that fact. There would be no more war. Sickness would be cut into thirds. You know, mental illness would diminish. People would walk around the earth in a much heavier condition, much better condition. It's just that, you know, if it's meant to be, it'll happen. I believe it could happen. You know, I believe that something such as meditation could catch on very well, and I offer it to you now. Anyone listening, I offer you to check into your meditation center, where they have centers for transcendental meditation, to look up in Yellow Pages or check out with a friend or two, check into it. It's worth looking into. The Beach Boys do it, and they've really benefited by it, you know. And
I can relate to it, too, because I know that the Mary Tyler Moore, I had the pleasure of talking with the Maharishi, and Mary Tyler Moore, Merv Griffin, and a number of other people who are very much into the meditation process, and they're able to reevaluate their lives in a better way. And I think that's what you're talking about, Brian Wilson, the ability to, in the middle of a hectic day, sit down and stop, get things flowing back to the normal pace, and get into it. And then it's like starting afresh. Do you find that creatively when you're writing your music now, that you're doing it while meditating, or how does the meditation process relate to your own creativity right now?
Oh, I see. Well, no. See, meditation is not creativity itself. Meditation is the absence of thought and energy output. Meditation is the subtlest, even beyond sleep. They have proven that the state you achieve through transcendental meditation is a subtler state than sleep itself, that you are actually going to a deeper level of being than sleep itself. You know, so in other words, meditation is, in effect, just the opposite of your creative output. What you do after you meditate, you have nurtured yourself. You can create immensely well. You can think more acutely. You can work better. No, you don't create during meditation. I never, ever create or think of anything under meditation. My mind shuts off. I repeat my mantra over and over, and you lose your mantra for a while, and you go, oh, I can't do it. You start again, and then you have a lot of thoughts come up. You start thinking, well, that doggone idiot that told me off the other day, I'd like to take him, and you know, and these a lot of hostile thoughts come up, a lot of weird thoughts, but you keep repeating that mantra, and eventually, after a couple weeks doing it, you've got it down to the point where you can look forward to say, ooh, it's time to meditate. Right, 20 minutes, it's all. Then you go, boom, 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 boom. You do it, you come out of it, fine. Then you're okay. You know, no more hassles. Meditate, no more hassles, no problems, there's no bad in the world, there's no hostility or hate, you know. It's all good, you know. I mean, things are good, you know. I mean, when you meditate, you lack that urge, you know. You get into a better frame of mind, you know.
Brian Wilson, tell us about the Surf's Up album. How did that whole thing come about, and why choose the ecology issue at that point, and how did that whole creative process for the album come about?
Repeat that for me, please?
The Surf's Up album.
Yes.
What about it? How did it originate? What's behind it all? Tell us about that. Can you go back to that?
Well, it originated with Carl and the Beach Boys. The boys had wanted to experiment in the area of certain refinements of music, refined music, and get into certain areas that hadn't been gotten into before. The song Surf's Up itself, which I heard on the radio the other day on the way to the airport. I fly down to San Diego every Monday to get treatments from a doctor in acupuncture, which is benefiting my life. It's worth going on the airplane for. On the way to the airport, I heard Surf's Up, and it's strange you'd bring that album up. I did hear the song, and Surf's Up album was built around that song. We did that song as with Van Dyke Parks, who brilliant man. Probably respected by the circuit that I know of, friends that I know. We all respect and admire Van Dyke and think of him as just, you know, a storehouse of creativity and a brilliant mind. And of course, he can do nothing but good with his mind. I mean, his mind is apparently he's one of those gifted people that knows how to think right, you know. And he wrote that song with me, and I think that there's a lot to be gained from songs. The album Surf's Up, I don't really recall. Isn't that funny at this point? I don't really recall all the songs on that album.
I'll try and refresh it. I wish we could get it brought in here. Maybe during a break we can bring it in. But it's a unique album because here were the Beach Boys in the 60s, you know, talking about the good life in America, surfing. I mean, you were the clean-cut Americans. We were surfing. We were out there having fun. We were running down the street in our hot rods. The toughest thing was having our daddy take our T-bird away, type thing, if we didn't do our homework. And then all of a sudden, here were the Beach Boys, the symbols of all this fun. And all of a sudden you said, wait a minute, look what we're doing while having all this fun. look what we're doing to our environment. And maybe I'm trying to put too much into this, but I don't think so. I think that album was a very important album because you were the spokespeople for all this fun, and then you were saying, hey, let's look at this a minute. There are implications to all our actions. You have a song in there about a tree, for instance, and the growing of a tree. I'm trying to remember some of the other songs in it, but almost every song related to the environment and to the fact that for every action there was a reaction, and
Right.
we were definitely fouling up our environment, and you became the spokespeople for it through that album.
Right. Well, there was a song on there, I think, "Don't Go Near the Water,"
Right.
which was an ecology song, a song that apparently was dealing, from Al Jardin's and Mike Love's viewpoint, with the problem of I don't know what the scene
I'll
is.
tell you what it was. That song, in fact, I used for a film I made in college. And I did a film of a sewage pipe pouring in different colored liquids into the Connecticut River, of all places.
Oh, really?
Once an hour, it would change colors, brilliant colors, red, blue, green, purple, and all these colors were gathered around the rocks, and it made this beautiful film, very picturesque, Disney-esque almost. It was like a trip through Fantasia. Yet the implications of it were that here was all this crap being poured into the Connecticut River without any thought given to the ecology of the river, and that song went perfectly with it. For me, that's what that song was about.
Right, right. Yeah. Anyway, that was called "Don't Go Near the Water." It was a song, ecology, slanted song. We have a song called "Cigarette Butt," which we're going to be doing in the future, called "Cigarette Butt," which we've done it. We haven't finished it, but it's in the makings now, and it'll be...
Will that be on the new album?
No, it'll be on in several months. We're ahead of time, ahead of schedule in recording, and "Cigarette Butt" is one of our songs that we're doing, and this song is a cigarette butt. When you throw it in the toilet, it goes psst. But the trick is you shouldn't laugh, because if you start laughing, you're just a coward, and nobody wants to be a coward. That's just some of the words. But in that song, it does mention, now some people are talking about ecology. Why don't somebody do something about it right now? We're all choking on the air that we breathe now. How could we let it slide by? This is just an indication. This is an indication that somebody somewhere is bothered by the problem of smog, and is saying, well, now, what to do about it? We're not experts, but at least we had mentioned that, as a thing in a song called "Cigarette Butt." So look for a song called "Cigarette Butt" in the future. It's a very good song, and I like it very much.
I can't wait to hear it. Carl Goldman with you on Conversations. Brian Wilson is my guest. We've been rapping a while, and you're really giving us a good insight to what the Beach Boys are all about and what Brian Wilson's all about. And I want to right now, before we even close, thank you for coming up here, and I would think our audience is going to appreciate getting a different dimension to Brian Wilson as well. You seem to be into so many things, Brian. We talked about the health, the exercise, your own inner awareness, your own inner trip with mind expansion, with transcendental
Right.
meditation, your physical pursuits right now, playing basketball, working out in a health club every day, becoming the Charles Atlas of the airwaves.
Right.
The outer self is also a concerned individual. We talked about the environment earlier, and the Surf's Up album, and your new song with cigarette butts, and the smog problem. What about some of the other outer issues? Where do you see our own society going right now? Do you think we're getting a new shot of adrenaline and getting involved with issues at the moment?
I think so. I think there are always a shot of adrenaline present in the situation. There's a great deal of... yeah, I believe we are. I could answer that only directly that yes, I do believe there's a shot of adrenaline happening, and I think the Beach Boys are a small aspect of that adrenaline shot. Yes,
Do you
I
see yourself being a catalyst for that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I must thank everyone for their concern over our group, the Beach Boys, and I, Brian Wilson, would like to just thank everybody for listening to this conversation, and of course be looking for an album called "The Beach Boys Love You" to happen sometime in March, which I think should be quite an entertaining thing for you. And I thank you, Carl, for giving me the opportunity to come down and speak to the people.
Brian, I'm delighted to have you. What are some of the things that are going to be happening with the Beach Boys after the album? You going on tour?
Well, in May or June, we're going to do some extensive touring.
Summer is coming, and so are
Right.
the Beach Boys. I
Right.
can't wait.
Okay, and K100 continues to be a moving force, and I do spot check on K100 now and then, and I enjoy your programming, and of course, this aspect here of the conversations is most stimulating, and I just wish you continued luck. I think it's going to work for you.
Well, I thank you. Let's get into a song and then wrap things up.
Okay.
Okay, Brian Wilson, thank you so much for everything. Any closing things you want to say? Any things that you're into right now? Let's talk politics for just a minute. We've got a couple minutes left. What is your own feeling on the political flow of this country right at the moment? What are some specific issues right now politically that you're concerned with and might want to get involved with?
Well, I've always been concerned with old age situations. Sorry that I couldn't be William. What's his name? Buckley.
Which one? William Buckley?
Yeah, right. I'm sorry I'm not
Right.
he, or I'd be able to give you a better discussion on the issue. But some of my concerns are, of course, ecology, but that seems to be a lost cause. Old age. I don't know. I really couldn't say. You know, I'm so completely idiotic when it comes to politics. You know, that I'm almost embarrassed. It's almost an embarrassing thing.
But it's all related. Your music is
Right.
certainly very much related to it. And I look forward to hearing some new stuff by the Beach Boys. The new album, again, it's called what?
The Beach Boys Love You.
The Beach Boys Love You. 14 new songs.
Right.
And I'm looking forward to seeing all of them climbing up the charts. Best of luck to you with everything else.
Thank you, Carl, and thank you to the people.
Let's do it again, Brian Wilson,
Okay.
very soon.
Standard questions, but they're be interesting to hear what you have to say anyway. Such as how the group got together originally, the idea of surf music in general, and all that.
Well, this was initially born out of Dennis's desire and to begin a situation of surf songs that he conceived of as a fad. At that time, had become what we call a fad. And he thought that it would be wise to experiment with surf fads. That there was something to it that he thought was had validity. You know, in other words, people relate to surfing. Why not write about it? Why not experiment with it? We did, and we were successful. We experimented, and the experiment made it.
Where did the harmony come from? How did you come?
Well,
to sing?
we conceived most of our harmony from learning from the Four Freshmen, a group that most people don't really know of. It's a group called the Four Freshmen that we had admired for years and learned harmonics. And of course, gee whiz, you know, from various the Letterman, you know, some of their harmonies. We just learned, you know, we learned from groups that you can incorporate these different harmonies, and you end up with a unique thing called the Beach Boys, you know, and that's how we were born. That's how it happened, you know.
How did surfing music come to happen? When and what brought it about?
Well, surfing music was at that time wasn't really anything but your Chuck Berry guitar with your Brian Dennis and Carl and Michael harmonizing their vocal cords. A good family blend. It was Chuck Berry guitar and a family blend called the Beach Boys, and that happened. That just happened. You know. That was the formation of surfing sounds.
Okay. How would you describe surf music as opposed to any other form of music?
Well, I would consider it an exuberating form of music, a little more exuberant than most of your music. Your Surfing USA, if everybody had an ocean, you know, it just has that up feeling. You know, there's something up about it. It just feels more up than your normal situation. You know, I would call it up music. You know.
Okay, or fun music.
Yeah, fun music.
Okay. Let me ask you about some songs. In fact, I'll tell you what. Let me show you this book here. And maybe you could look down the list of some of these songs on here. Maybe you could tell me how they came to be.
With the Beach Boys? Well, like, say, Surfing USA came to me. It was a Chuck Berry song. It was a song that started out as Chuck Berry's Sweet Little 16. We just initially changed the words into Surfin' USA, and that became Surfin' USA. Shutdown was written with a man named Roger Christian, whom I met in the parking lot of a radio station called KFWB. He had a set of lyrics. He said, listen to this. And he read me the lyrics. I flipped. I said, Roger, I want to write a song. I went home, wrote a melody to it, and we had Shutdown. Surfer Girl came to be through, I was sitting in my car in Hawthorne, California, and I just got going on a melodic da 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 da, and then I went home and wrote a bridge to it, and it was just a simple spontaneous occurrence that happened. Be True to Your School was I had a fist fight with a fella after a football game one night, and it just reminded me of the spirit of from another school. Guy had jumped me. I was jumped, and I had to fist fight him, and I lost the fight. But at least I went home and I wrote a song called "Be True to Your School." In other words, fight your way through, not condoning fighting, but the spirit of fighting, the spirit of competition. Be true to your school. Go with your own. That whole kind of scene. That's just a few examples, like Little Honda. I don't know that we wrote a background track, that we made a track of chords, C to G, F to G, simple three corner blues chords. Mike Love and I wrote a song and lyrics over the thing in the studio, playing it back on big speakers real loud. That's how Little Honda came to happen. God Only Knows was written with a fella named Tony Asher, who was versed in music and words, and he and I just sat down one night and said, let's write a classic love song that'll live on, and it just happened. It just happened one night. Gee, that's just a few examples, of the things how we did it, how it happened.
What are your favorite songs?
My favorites are Surfer Girl, of course, is probably one of my favorites because it's sweet. It's sweet and it's loving, I like sweet, loving things. I feel very comfortable around stuff like that. Good Vibrations because of its intense, I'm picking up good vibrations, that just the message involved, good vibes, good news here, she's giving me the excitations, that kind of thing makes it one of my favorites because it's dealing in a vibration. It's talking about spiritualism, versus, just what we've been talking about. So that's some of my favorites.
How did that song come to be? What inspired that song?
Good Vibrations?
Yeah.
I was just inspired by the fact that my mother used to tell me how vibrations existed, that dogs will bark at some people, but they won't bark at others. Why is that? How come the dog will go roar, 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 at somebody and go silent on another guy? You know how a dog will be in the front yard, a guy will walk by, and he'll start barking. Well, my mother said that a dog sees vibrations, that he picks it up, rather than just, that there's something that emits off a human being that transmits to the dog, and the dog begins barking out of fear. He picks something up. This was translated into a song form by me at least 16 years later,
Did you talk about the studio sessions that went in to create that song? How did you build that song in the studio?
Well, we just used 4 different studios, 4 different recording studios. We recorded a verse in one studio, a bridge in another, and the choruses in another, and overdubbed some vocals in another, and instrument. We just utilized different studios, evolving the song, junking some tapes, spent about $20,000 on the thing, and spent a lot of money on it, and ended up depressed, and ended up feeling like everything was goofed up. I was very depressed over the whole thing, but nonetheless, we did have this great song called Good Vibrations that we had that was super duper,
What do you think is the very best record, and single or album, that you think you've ever done?
I think one of the best singles was Surfer Girl, because of its sweetness, like I say.
Okay. How would you describe your idea of what music should be? What do you think would be the Brian Wilson musical philosophy?
I would say that can be summed up by saying that be sensitive, be loving, in other words, count on your instincts to be first rather than your thinking. Use your instinctual powers, like we do musically. We rely on our instincts. So be generally sensitive and loving, and like that kind of in those categories.
Dean Torrance told us a whole bunch of stories of CO2 fights that
Right.
you guys used to have with the Raiders and all that stuff. Could you maybe tell a favorite story of something that's happened to you?
Well, one time in Hawaii, after a show, Jan Berry ran up and let Mike Love have it with some whipped cream, and everybody cracked up. It was real funny because he didn't expect that, of course, and it was just after the show was over on stage, and we just had a ball. I mean, Jan Berry just let him have it with his whipped cream, and I mean, we just cracked up. We couldn't believe how funny that was. It was so funny.
Could you talk about Jan Berry? What kind of person?
Well, Jan Berry is, of course, a very interesting person. Had a extremely bad auto accident. Has done great recovery from his crippled condition, and we're all happy for him. And he's a very creative man. He works over at A&M Records, utilizing their studios. And I know very much. I saw him at the Forum concert and backstage. And of course, I haven't seen much of him. Do know that he's very creative and very powerful man, very sensitive man, very sensitive man.
His partner, I understand, turned up at actually both of them, I guess, turned up at a lot of Beach Boys session, like the Party album. Could you talk about how that happened and how Barbara Ann came?
Well, Dean Torrance, Jan's partner, dropped by Maryland, who I had produced for a number of years and had failures with. I didn't come through for them. I goofed, and I just couldn't get them a hit. And of course, they made good records. We made great records. They just weren't promoted properly. But they're very talented, and they have everything it takes to go to the top and do it just like everybody else does. Someday they probably will, and I would hope that they will have their fair shake.
You'll Belong to me was a
Right,
great record,
right.
and the Spring
Thank you.
Records. Okay. How about the new things, the stuff that's on the new album thing and stuff? What kind of songs will be on that? You got that? Okay.
How about Glenn Campbell's influence, things that he did with Beach Boys? How'd you get to meet with Glenn Campbell? How did you get together on the sessions?
Glenn Campbell, that's interesting, was called up by Mike Love, who, when I quit the group in '65, I decided I would stay home for a while and try to write music at home versus going out on the road and suffering from shock and loneliness and things like that. And he decided that he would have Glenn Campbell take my place on the road situation. And Glenn did it for about 6 months, but then a funny thing happened to Glenn. He became very famous at his TV thing. He just all of a sudden clicked, and there he was, and we lost him. He left us. And they got Bruce Johnston, who was a partner to Terry Melcher, who was Bruce and Terry at that time. Bruce Johnston became one of the Beach Boys for 6 years at least, and toured with them and recorded a lot of albums with us. Did a lot of work, did a song called Deirdre. He did a number of things I can't recall. A very creative man and very busy. Worked with Elton John, has done a number of things with Eric Carmen. He just works with various artists now. He quit the group a while ago, and they now have a fellow named Billy Hinchy, who is Carl's brother-in-law. And Billy's the brother of Carl's wife, Annie, and he does the shows now.
You talked a little bit about what surfing music is in California music. Would you like to elaborate at all on what is meant by California music or sunshine music or beach music?
Like I was saying before to Carl, in our the K100 conversations, is that the surf music is imparts itself from other, in that it's identifiable as an upness, a certain up feeling. Of course, the harmonic blend of the Beach Boys sounding like a family unit, like three singers would sound like, hey, that sounds like the same person singing all three notes, so closely blended that it sounds like a unit, that there's something very spiritual about it. It sounds very close harmonically. That coupled with such an elated feeling, such an energetic, lifelike feeling that there's life happening, something's happening, something is occurring. This is the way that I identify surf music as, hey, that's something happening there. That's an up feeling, you know, that's the way I look at it. California music, that way.
Why do you think it is that the Endless Summer repackage and Spirit of America, why do you think those were so incredibly successful? Because generally reissues never...
well,
work.
repackages, reissues like that of old songs, a lot of times if they're issued spaced enough years out there, enough years after the new generation has come along, you find a lot of these kids, 12 and 13 to 15, having heard them for the first time. In other words, they're hearing a package of songs that to them are brand new songs, you know, and to the older folks would be, of course, oldies but goodies. But this is, I think, the biggest reason 60 to 80% of the success of that album, or those two albums, was due to the fact that these are a new generation of kids hearing these songs for the first time, I think.
Late 60s there was a great emphasis put on songs with very deep meanings and very heavy metal and feedback and all that stuff, and fun music kind of disappeared. Why do you think fun music is back, and what do you think is the future?
Well, I think what happened was drugs, the influence of drugs on our society tended to made the listener as well as the artists very lackadaisical, very thoughty and heady, and with the advent of marijuana and pot, I think you found the mind was becoming influenced heavily by drugs, and you found a lot of thoughtness and heavy acid thoughts, and it became very heady. Music and thoughts became very heady-like, very mental, and I think there's a lack of drugs now. I think people are turning away from drugs. They're turning toward life itself as the high, the natural high, and physical exercises definitely on the way back. Your college sports are all over the TV and radio, and it's just it's happening more again now. It's a return to the early 60s, and there's definitely a return to fun stuff, you know.
What do you think is going to be the future of pop music?
Well, I always thought that maybe electronics would begin to take over, because as the mind expands, a man is tempted to get into things that imitate his mind or his creativity. So I think that the future looks fairly well electronic. It looks like the Moog synthesizer, which could very possibly become a more prominent instrument. People will experiment in recordings with a more electronic, electronically speaking. Not so much too freaked out, but, well, like it's been happening. You know, you hear a lot of Moog synthesizer and a lot of, you know, something a little freakier than your normal do, you know, something. I don't know. I think electronics, could be a future.
What did you think of what did you think of the record Beach Baby by First Class?
Beach baby, lend me to do. Yeah, I thought it was great. I was a very up thing, you know. Anything up like that, California music, up sound, gets my blood going and gets me on my toes, you know.
One other thing, and that is, could you define rock and roll music?
Rock and roll is very easily defined as basic rhythm instruments, drums, guitar, piano, and horns, and bass, put to rhythm, played exuberantly, and that's rock and roll.
Or if you could do a little promo for the segments.
Also, I got a question.
I was asked, this is Brian Wilson, I was asked where the Beach Boys came from. Well, we're all from Hawthorne and Los Angeles. Four of us came from Hawthorne, and one of us came from mid LA, off Crenshaw Boulevard and 48th. We were happening from out toward the South Bay of Hawthorne. We were born out that direction, and we were all born in Los Angeles, and we all come from that area.
How did the name come to be?
That was we were given that name by a man named Russ Regan, who named us the Beach Boys as our name. See, before we knew it, our group was called the Pendletones. And then Russ Regan in this label said, hey, we want to put this record out by these fellas named the Pendletones called Surfin'. Russ said, why don't you call them the Beach Boys? And then tell them, after you release it, just say, hey, your new name's the Beach Boys. So they announced to us over the phone that our new name was the Beach Boys, and we went, what? But later on, we accepted it. Hi, I'm Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys, and I'll be joining you for the new history of rock and roll exclusively on K100 FM. Hi, I'm Brian Wilson, and I want to... I'll start again.
Okay, go ahead. Share our latest Beach
Hi, I'm Brian Wilson, and I want to share our latest Beach Boys song with you exclusively on K100 FM.
Let's do that one last time.
Hi, I'm Brian Wilson, and I want to share our latest Beach Boys song with you exclusively on K100 FM. Hi, this is Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys, and the Beach Boys will be coming up next on the History of Rock and Roll.